Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. You ready for another episode of My Bigfoot Sighting? Alright then, let's do this.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, love's in the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah.
If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let me know.
My Bigfoot sighting happened 5 years ago. I've been up in this area of the United States for about 30 years. I'm not an outdoorsman, but I'm outdoors a lot. I'm an avid cyclist. I got dogs, and I walk them regular. So I'm outdoors a lot. I walk my dogs at least 3 times a week. I ride my bike at least 3 times a week, whether it's on the road or on the dirt. I'm out on my bike. But the first instance I had with one of these things was when I was golfing with a friend of mine who is one of these scientific mind people, to where if you tell them something, they don't believe you unless you prove it. So we're on the golf course, and there's this par 3. The tee box is elevated quite a bit, and the green is way down there. It's like 100 yards away, maybe less. So we're up at the tee box getting ready, and all of a sudden we hear this siren type roar type. It was like a howl, and it was exactly the same kind of howl that I heard on the Art Bell show, Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. And he had recordings on there that someone sent him in from the Northwest up here. One of them was a growl, and the other one was more like a howl. I heard these recordings over and over again, being an avid listener of the show. So we're on the top of this tee box getting ready, and in the woods, about 50 yards from the green into the brush, I heard that same exact howl that I heard on the Art Bell show. It's a combination of like a siren that started, and then it morphed into like a howl, like of a dog, and then towards the end, it just smoothed into something that sounded like a loon, and it was loud and clear. It scared me quite a bit, and it shook my buddy up quite a bit too. So I kind of typically have this kind of a spiteful attitude towards things. Sometimes when it doesn't make sense, I'll get spiteful. I'm like, oh yeah? So I started walking back to my golf bag to grab my golf club. And I was going to repeat the howl back to it. Then I got scared because I got this impression of me howling and this thing coming running up the hill to get me. And all I got is a stupid golf club up against something that's 8 feet or taller. I just kind of changed my mind. I said, I'm not going to say anything. And it kind of shook me up. So me and my buddy, we're a little shooken up. We hurried up and got our first shot off. And luckily, I'm so glad I landed on the green, because I didn't want to look for my ball in the rough on the far side of the green where that noise came from. I was real happy for that. And so did my buddy. And I was happy for that. We walked down there and we did the quickest 3 putts I ever did. And I got this feeling there's something in the back of me watching. And I didn't want to look because it was scary. So I didn't look when I was putting. But after I got done, I started walking away. I still got that feeling, man, something's watching me. So I had to turn around real quick and look, take a real quick glance, because it felt like it was like right on me kind of a thing. But I didn't see anything. I'm glad for that. And walked off and didn't hear anything. My buddy, he didn't think it was anything. He thought it was like a dog howling or something. So I forgot about it. And then I got a bucket list I have because I like to bicycle and I heard a bunch of stuff about Moab. So I went to Moab and they got these sandstones there where some dinosaurs had walked millions of years ago. It's got these 3-toed footprints in the sandstone I went and looked at. Oh, that was kind of neat. So then a little while after that, or maybe a day after that, could have been that morning when I saw those footprints, I don't know. But I looked at my guidebook and found a trail I wanted. So I went to the trailhead and started riding. The first part of this trail is through a sand wash. You know, Moab's all sandy and rocky and all that stuff. And there's a trail in the middle of the sand wash. It's a little V. You have to put your bike in that V or else it's so soft outside of that you can't really pedal. And you have to concentrate on staying in that V or your bike will go left, right, and you'll stop. So I'm in this sand wash riding, and all of a sudden I get this feeling that I'm prey. It's not just the feeling I'm being watched. It's the feeling I'm prey. And it's wigging me out. It's strong, very strong. And I can't tell where it's coming from. It's coming from somewhere ahead of me or to the right and to the side, it felt like. But I just kept riding, tried to blow it off, and thinking that it's those dinosaur tracks I saw. It's wigging me out. Because the sand wash kind of does little snake turns left and right. A lot of times you come up to a turn, and I got this feeling that there's going to be a saber-toothed tiger waiting for me right when I get around that turn. It's just that so strong of a prey feeling. It bothered me. So I'm starting to get out of the sand wash to the area where the trail makes a hard left, and you get into the sandstone where you're out of the sand and on something hard where you can ride better. But when I got to that left turn from the sand to go up to the sandstone, the feeling that something was watching me on my right side, I'm just on the other side of the hump. It's on the outside of that turn. The feeling was so strong, I wanted to look, but I couldn't because I was in the sand. And if you don't look right where you want to go in the center of that V, you're going to go left, right, and stall. The last thing I wanted to do was to stop my bike 30 feet away from the strongest feeling I had so far that something was watching me. I couldn't look. So as soon as I got out of the sand, made that left turn, I took a real quick look to my right over that hill to see if I could see anything. Well, there was nothing. But riding up that sandstone from that turn I just made, I got this strong feeling something's watching me there. And then I had more of the trail to go up. But all of a sudden I realized if I go up this trail, this thing's going to follow me. And I'm not going to know where it is when I come down, if it's going to get me or not. You know, it's that unknown that I didn't want to do. So I rode my bicycle in these little tight circle on the sandstone for about 10 minutes, trying to make up my mind to go back down, and then trying to get the nerve to go back down because there's no way I'm going up. So after about 10 minutes, I said, to heck with it. I got to go now or I'm not going to go. So I just bonsaied down that sandstone and into the wash and just can't look anywhere. But that feeling was behind me. But the feeling of being prey wasn't so strong as it was when I first started on this ride. So riding out of this sand, and the feeling it's still there, but not that strong. And all of a sudden, the back of my head gets this feeling like it's not pressure on it, but like an energy beam or something hit the back of my head. It kind of didn't feel warm. It didn't tingle, but it felt like pressure, but there was nothing there. It was the whole back of my head. So I turned around real quick to see what's back of me, and as usual, I saw nothing. And then nothing else happened on that ride. But that feeling at the back of my head was, I'll never forget it. I never felt it again. So those things that happened, the golf course and the bike ride, there was a space between those two. And, you can't figure it out. So you just put it in your head as something you may realize what it is later, or the answers may come later. So it goes in the back of my head. So this other time something happened. I'm on like 5 acres in this single wide trailer. They're like on bricks and stuff, and they're up in the air quite a bit. And I got no porch light, no dog at the time. The only light on around this 5 acres, this little clearing, was the light that I was reading under in the corner of the trailer. And I had the louvered windows open and the drapes shut so that I could blow some smoke out and get some fresh air. And it was raining, but it wasn't the normal rain up here. The normal rain up here is like sprinkles. It'll get heavy for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then lighten up, and then go away. The constant heavy rains we get up here, it's rare. But this night, it was going on. And the area I lived in, it was flat. So when it rained like that, constantly, I would get like this 1/2-inch puddle of water all through the front of my trailer because it just doesn't have enough time to drain yet. It's just puddly. And it was raining so hard, I can hear the raindrops hitting the water all outside the trailer. And it was a steady noise. And then all of a sudden, when I'm reading, something got my attention. The noise changed, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Stopped reading, listened, didn't hear anything. But it changed, and I couldn't figure it out. So got back to reading. 3 to 5 minutes later, the change happened again. And I could put my finger on it this time. The change was, it was a silence coming from the rain outside somewhere. The pattern was different in this one spot. It was quiet. I figured out it's near the tree I got out there. We might be that. So I kept reading. 3 to 5 minutes later, that quiet got closer. And this time, I'm like, all right, this is the third time something's going on. Because it should sound the same, and it's not. The rain is staying the same, but the pattern is different. So I went back to reading. And then the quiet got closer. And I'm like, whoa, this is weird. But there was no noise after that. It was just the quiet spot got closer. All right, ignore this and go back to reading. So I went back to reading. A couple minutes later, that quiet now is right outside my window. It's quiet right there. And I got the feeling that there's something there. There's a presence there. And I know if you look from inside where there's a light, you cannot see outside. But the darn thing was standing right there in front of me, 3 feet away. And it was quiet. I just had to pull the drapes back, knowing I wouldn't see anything. So I pulled the drapes back, saw nothing but glare and black. But I heard this slap, 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 like big feet hitting the water puddles as it ran. There was only 3 of them. And at the same time that this whap, whap, whap was going on, hitting the water, it made this sound like whack, whack. What the heck is going on? I couldn't figure it out. Is a neighbor spying on me or something, Because the bottom of that window is 6.5 feet high. And my head is 2 feet above that. And it feels like this thing's right even with my head, And it's this whack, whack. Like, what the heck? I don't know what's going on. So, I just go over and over in my head for a couple of weeks. And I just can't figure it out. So I go up to a friend of mine who I have told ghost stories to before. And he didn't believe me. He didn't make fun of me either. He just said, oh, whatever. And then he had an encounter with a ghost, the same area we were working in. So we kind of figured, wow, okay, I had an experience too. So I went to him and told him what happened with this thing outside my window. And he looked at me like he just saw a ghost. He said, I was camping not too far from where we are, like maybe 30-minute drive. So I was camping in a tent, sleeping at night, and all of a sudden I woke up for no reason. I couldn't figure it out. So I got up and I looked out the window in the tent, and I couldn't see nothing. It was all dark. But I heard this thing running like it was like a derailed train going through the woods. And it made a sound that went whack, whack. Wow. What are the odds? I've been listening to Bigfoot stories and all this for years, and I've never, ever heard a story where they said the thing made that noise. And here I tell my buddy. And so I'm like, wow, it must have been the same one, you know? We must have had the same visitor, because it was about 5 years separation between my experience and his. His experience was first. So at that time, that's when I started realizing that that's some kind of cryptid we don't know about. And it's for sure definite. So it kind of relieved me a lot from what the heck was that silent noise doing around my trailer and then running away and stuff. And the distance from where it was standing when it started running was about from there to my raised driveway, the gravel raised, so it was out of the water. It wasn't in a puddle. It was about like 40 feet. And this thing covered that space in 3 steps. It just went whap, whap, whap. And then it made that quacking sound. So I felt relieved that it just kind of maybe I got an answer to what happened. So there's this one trail that I walked my dogs on a lot. It's not too far from the house, and it's a really nice one. And I love my dogs, and I just can't stand seeing them laid up around the house, not going out and walking, smelling and doing all the stuff they do. They just love it out there, and it's good for me too to get some exercise. So I would take my dogs on this particular trail many times a week. And I would go out there later in the day because a lot of the people were gone, and just to stay out of the trouble when dogs meet each other, they're not always nice, you know. And the people, I would like to take my dogs off the leash when there's nobody out there because they can run. They're not bothering anybody. So that's why I would go out there late. And a lot of times I would go out there to where I'd be at the end of the trail at the turnaround right when it got dark so I could come back at night. It was just kind of neat, you know. So all my happenings on this trail are like within 200 yards of walking in the same area. I would hear this owl hooting. So I would repeat the hoot, try to copy it, but it would, when it repeated my hoot, it had like attitude to it. It was weird. It was almost like the thing, and when I wouldn't hoot, it would hoot back again like it was mad. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I might be playing games with myself, you know. So I stopped hooting just because it just felt weird. And not too long after that, on another hike, I'm on this trail, and in this same area, I hear this owl hoot, like a barred owl, but the sound of this hoot was like the barred owl was the size of a Shetland pony. The depth and the volume was not right. There is no bird in this world that can make a sound like that. And it sounded like an owl, but it was just way too deep, too loud. And I didn't dare try to repeat it to be spiteful or anything because it just didn't feel right. So that stuck with me for a while. So after that, I would take my dogs on the trail, and you know, dogs love to go hiking. It's like the best thing in the world to them. They want to do it more than anything. And when a dog stops on the trail and turns around and wants to go back, that means something to me. That's nothing to ignore. Dogs they're not for protection. They're an early warning system. My gun is for protection. So when my dog wants to stop and turn around and go back, I'm like, okay, I'll follow you. This walk is over. So I didn't think much of that after that. So I had this dog's mother, this other dog's sister out there walking. And this thing was hesitating, not wanting to walk, lagging back. I had to tell her to hurry up, come on. I'm wondering if she's sick or something, So the third time she's hesitating, but she's staring down the trail like a 1,000-mile stare, And I say her name. She doesn't do nothing. She doesn't budge. She doesn't look at me. I say her name again. Nothing. And it's freaking me out the way she's frozen, staring down that trail like what the heck is that? So I wave my hand in front of her. She doesn't do nothing. She just keeps staring down there. So I'm like, all right, it just wigs my dog out that much. I'm not going to go down there either. So I said, you want to go home? She turned around and just, yep, just ready to go home. And another time she did the same thing in the same place her sister did. Stopped on the trail, just stopped and froze. And I stopped. Just when my dogs stop, mostly they want to smell and scratch and do all that stuff. So I let them. She just stood there. So I'm like, what do you want to do? She turned around, head back up the hill, going back to the car. And all this is in the same area. But this particular time, it's not at night. It's after dusk, so it's pretty dark, but I can still see the trail. Walking back with my dogs, and all of a sudden I hear this sound. It sounds like a World War II siren. How they ramp up, they go, oh, and ramp up like that. That's what this thing did. And first thing that came to my mind was, what's a siren doing out here? And then smoothly and brilliantly, it transformed from that siren into the tone of an owl hooting. And then magnificently, it transferred from that to a whistle. And it was a loud whistle. It wasn't, the human couldn't whistle that loud. It was just the volume in it. So it kind of spooked me. So I, being a little spiteful, I popped my tongue, it's like, see what would happen. And it whistled again. It was like, but much better than that. Just a pure, clean tone. So I'm like, oh man, this is weird. And I'm walking towards this area where it is, and got my dogs with me. They're on the leash. And I stood there and I'm waiting. And all of a sudden, something slides through the brush. It either stands up like about a 3 or 5 feet motion, or it slides sideways within a 3 or 5 feet motion. But something is moving through the brush, and it's only like 20 yards away from me. I can't see in the brush. It's dark. I look down at my dogs. They're looking at that. They look up at me, and I said, let's go. I didn't even want to look to see if I could see any shining eyes or anything, it's because why? I know there's something there, there's no doubt about it, but I didn't get this feeling of like danger, no danger. And my dogs, if they see a deer, they want to get it. They want to run. I got to hold them back and all this stuff. But they heard this thing and they weren't interested. So on the way back, I heard 2 more whistles. They're about 5 minutes apart. And the first whistle wasn't as loud as the first one I heard, that got my attention. And then 5 minutes further away, I heard another whistle, which was quieter. So like the thing was in the same spot, whistling, either telling its friends I'm leaving or saying goodbye to me. I don't know. But so Back on this trail again, and my dogs, there's a certain spot on the trail that the dogs smell a lot. It's the same spot. They always smell left side, right side, always interested in this one spot. Sometimes when we come back, they're way more interested in that spot on the way back. That tells me there's something there from the time we passed it to the time we came back, just the way they're so active and animated smelling. And in this area, when I had them off the leash, they would always want to go to the left of this trail, into the brush, and I'd always call them back. So in this area, you know how the branches on the trees will hang down and want to poke you in the eyes when you're walking on the trail and stuff, and you can dodge them and all that. Well, I got tired of those eye pokers, so I started breaking those branches off on the trees. And the dogs are up ahead of me. I'm just breaking them off, and after I broke off my third one, about 30 yards into the brush, I heard a bigger branch break. You know, you hear dead branches break a lot out in the woods. They got that little tweaking sound, and they just fall lightly. But when this branch broke, it didn't just break. It had a thud to it, like a millisecond before it broke. Kind of like you would when you take your palm and you smack a skinny branch on the side of a trunk and it breaks off. It made that thud sound before. I'm like, all right, this is kind of coincidental, you know. Oh, how come my dogs didn't smell this thing if it's over there? So I let out some breath. Sure enough, we're upwind from it. My dogs couldn't have smelt it. And I just got, you know, just kind of, okay, there's something there, and it's weird, but I don't get no bad feelings from it. Just my own fear from it, nothing coming from it. So we continued that walk, and nothing else happened on that walk. It was just weird. But on another walk on this trail, I shouldn't have let my dogs off the leash because there was a couple cars in the parking lot, so there's still people out there, but I did anyway because they don't get along with other dogs well, but they don't bother people at all. So my dogs were ahead of me. And I just walked through that area where all the activity is. I just walked through it, and up ahead of me, I heard this kind of sounds like a wolf, a human, and like a dog kind of howling, like a warning sound, you know, like before dogs fight, you can hear the growling and stuff they make. It's different than the warning sound. And this one was a warning sound. So automatically I figured, oh, great. My dogs are messing with somebody's Great Dane up there. This isn't good. This is bad. And so I'm calling them. They don't come. I'm calling them. They don't come. So I keep walking up this hill to see, you know, mainly see what the heck kind of a dog could make that kind of a noise. You know, I want to see how big that thing is and hope my dogs are still alive kind of a thing, you know. There was nobody up ahead of me. There's nothing. And I keep walking, and my dogs come up from behind me, you know, running up from behind. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? The best I can figure out was my dogs followed this thing's scent in that area where they smell it a lot. They went off the trail, and I didn't see it because they're ahead of me. They were way off left of the trail, and I kept walking. Well, I figure they tracked this thing down, and they caught it, and it gave them a roar to warn them, you know, to get away, which I'm glad. And I'm glad I got dogs that aren't these, like, vicious dogs, you know, like attack anything, because my two dogs got charged by a small pit bull once, and they took off running, outran that thing, you know. Like, good, that would have been an ugly fight. So what I figured happened was my dogs, I don't know if this thing is like a hellhound or a Bigfoot. I don't know. Some people call these dog man too. I don't know, but I like hellhound. It sounds better. It seems to fit them more. But I think it just warned them, and my dogs ran off. So I don't want people to know where this area is because I figure it spared my dogs' lives, and I appreciate that. So I'm not going to burn my bridge. So I don't tell anybody the area that this happened in. And Nothing else happened on that walk, but they did want to go back in that same area off the trail on the way back, and I wouldn't let them. Another time on this same trail, I'm hearing these two owls hooting back and forth, just like small owls do. And I'm walking towards the area where I'm hearing one of the owls. And I get close to it, and these owls, the noise they made was like, whoo, 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 back and forth. And I'm getting closer to them, and this thing sounds off, and it goes, whoo, 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 whoo. It's like its voice broke. It couldn't continue tapering off the last sound, and it ended in a big, that's the gosh darn owl. But I didn't get no bad feelings from it like I was in danger. It just kind of wigged me out. And it stopped hooting after that, and the other owl it was hooting to never made another sound. Not even on the way back, those didn't make a sound. It's just, those kinds of things are easy to dismiss if you don't already realize what is out there and have the other experiences I've had. And I've heard a tree knock, almost like someone took a baseball bat and hit a soggy log with it, harder than a human could. It was like 100 yards away, but it was a big thud, and I stopped, my dog stopped. They looked at it, they looked at me, I looked at them. So I popped my tongue twice again to see if I can get any more sound out of it, and I got nothing. So we just continued. And this particular trail, it's a popular one. A lot of people go on it. Some people say it's haunted or whatever, but now I know what they mean. So that's pretty much what I can remember on that one trail. And there's another trail I take the dogs on that a lot of weird stuff has happened. And it's first weird thing that happened on this second trail was all of a sudden in the middle of the trail, there's these big clumps of grass that have been pulled up, like grass and weeds, pulled up with like a 6-8 inch diameter root ball. And they're laid in the middle of the dirt road, aligned with each other, just one right after another, like 12 or 14 of them. And I come across that, I go, why would somebody do that? There's no reason for someone to do that. Unless they're looking for grubs or something, but I don't know. It was just a weird thing. So another time on that same trail, there's these weeds that grow on the side of the trail. They got these yellow flowers, kind of looks like a mini sunflower, turn bright yellow, and there's just scrawny weeds. For more than 2 miles, I only walked 2 miles on this trail, and all these weeds were pulled from both sides of the trail and thrown in the middle of it, just root balls and everything. What kind of human would do that? You got to be kind of off to do something like that. So those two put together, that's just kind of weird. So I also mountain bike on this trail, and I was up there alone. I'm riding on this trail, and they got these bridges that go over these streams so the salmon can run. And I like looking on each side of this bridge because the water's clear and all that, and it's just nice to look at. So typically I'll stop and look on both sides. And that's what I did this time on the way up. But on the way down, it's a concrete bridge, and it's on a slope. So when the water runs from the road over this bridge, it brings silt and small debris with it. So there's like a layer of 3/8 inch layer of sand across the top of this bridge. On my way down, I immediately, as soon as the bridge came in sight, I immediately noticed these two oblong shapes on the bridge. I'm like, where'd those come from? They couldn't have been here on the way up. I would have seen them on the way up. So I got off my bike and I looked at them, and the shapes are like 2 feet long, 8 inches wide, but with a radius on both ends, the top and bottom, just perfect radius. And these things are side by side, but they're perfect to one another. The shapes match so good. I'm like, how could anyone do that? So I tried to do it alongside of it. I use my foot. I tried to make a shape like that as perfect as I can. And it turned out jumped, just sloppy. It looked like a 3-year-old tried to do it, you know? And the surface of this oblong circle I tried making, the bottom of it was rough because the rocks and pebbles underneath were kicking up, kind of a thing. And it just was all rough. But those 2 circles that weren't there on the way up, but were there on the way down, the surface was smooth. It's kind of like no rocks, no nothing, just perfectly smooth. And so I'm like thinking, how could I have missed this on the way up? You know, I get off my bike, I look on both sides of the bridge, you know, I don't see anything. I'm just trying to reason it away. And I think to myself, I go, I've been there on the way up. It just couldn't have. I would have had to have seen it. And I'm doing this while I'm thinking this while I'm getting on my bike. And inside my head comes these words. You know it wasn't there. And it was not in my voice, close to my voice, but a whole lot more confident than what I was thinking at the time. And I didn't say that. It just was words in my head. And as soon as they came in my head, I realized they came from 50 yards behind me at about 10 o'clock. Like, yeah, time to go. And I put my feet in them pedals and I hooked up and I'm just pedaling as hard as I can and look back real quick to see if it's going to get me or not. And no, you know, but those words that came in my head were not my words. And it was weird because right after it said it, I knew without seeing where it came from. You just know. So that wigged me out a bit. And, you know, I tell people about it, but there's nothing really, you know, didn't see nothing or anything, but they just kind of think you're weird because you got words in your head, whatever. So that's okay. That's not the last thing that happened on that trail. The last thing that happened on the trail was just a couple of weeks ago. When I walk on this trail, I've been walking on it all summer, and I noticed this noise coming from off the trail about like a couple 100 yards off the trail. And it kind of sounds like kids playing, dogs, puppies playing, you know. I could barely hear it. So I just thought that somebody dozed a trail in there and built a house because the road isn't too far from that area. It is kind of, I don't know exactly where the paved road goes compared to the dirt road I'm on. I just figured someone dozed in a trail and built a house in the woods. They do it a lot around here. So I would hear that noise on and off and not think anything of it. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I'm on that trail. Well, about a month ago, I'm on the trail, and I hear this noise that sounds like kids and dogs playing, like roughhousing, chasing each other and stuff. And I'm like, wow, okay, you know, there's people living back in there. Just can't see them. They like their privacy. So I ignored it. 2 weeks ago, I'm on that trail. My dogs are smelling around, and I stop. I'm in the same area I've heard that noise. And I'm just gazing into the woods, just, you know, not looking at anything, just gazing. Now, I started to hear this noise that kind of sounded like a tractor or a bulldozer, you know, that kind of make that low rumbling noise kind of a thing. So it got my attention. So I started looking, and then the noise changed into like a warning that a dog growling, kind of a warning. But it's the volume and the bass to this was incredible. And you could tell when it was facing you just by the clarity that it was facing me. And it's in the same area that I was hearing all those noises previously. So I started like low and turned into like a warning growl. And I'm look at the dogs. They're looking there. They're looking at me. They look back there. And I'm like, all right. I had 2 guns, a knife, and 3 dogs. And after that growl, I still turned around and went back to my car. There's warnings and there's warnings. You know, if you don't heed warnings, it just gets worse from there. And a lot of these Bigfoot stories I've heard on YouTube, whenever they ignore the warning, they keep going, it gets worse. And when they ignore that, it gets worse. And then they wish they're in home in bed and safe all the time. So it was kind of later in the evening on this walk. So I kind of figured, all right, my trail by day, yours by night. So I just turned around and went home. I'm just not going to hassle these things. I went out there 2 times since then, and nothing. Got no noise or nothing. So I just kind of think that when I was stopped gazing off in the woods, it thought I was looking for it. So it was growling at me. But anyway, that's about all the ones I can remember now, things that happened to me, except for this last one that was the clincher. And it's on this trail where they take up the railroad tracks, pave it, and now everybody can walk their dogs, their kids, ride bikes, and it's a really, really good thing for everybody in the area to have this trail to walk on, ride bikes on. And I do it quite often. And I'm out there this Sunday. It was in the later part of the day. It was starting to get dusk. The sun wasn't completely down yet, but it was later in the day when all the people went home because it's Sunday night. So I'm out there on my bike, and it's quiet. Bikes are quiet. And I'm moving pretty good, like 20 miles an hour. And I come into this clearing that I've looked in thousands of times before. And all of a sudden, there's this burned out tree stump in the middle of the clearing. And then my brain goes, it's not a tree stump. That's a Bigfoot you caught out in the open. His back is turned to you, and it's turned sideways, so you won't recognize his profile. And as soon as that entered my mind, the next thought was, how come that burned out stump is so black? Charcoal isn't that black. There's hardly anything in this world that can be that black. It's so black. How could it be so black? You know, it's going through my mind. And on the side of it it shined, kind of like when you take, like fur, if it's laying down, but if your dog makes an arc or stretches, the fur will like separate from its body. That's what I'm seeing on the left side of this thing, but it's not fur, it's hair, and the light is shining on it. I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is that? That's crazy. And how could a burned out stump be so tall? Because it's like 9 to 13 feet tall. It's that tall. And I go, stumps aren't that narrow. If they're that tall, they're a little wider. And that shine, I'm going, charcoal don't shine like that. And what you got to understand at this point, it's in the winter, and it was cold, very cold, and I rode too hard. I had my body was sweaty, and I had this 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing on my wet body. My hands were wet and cold and freezing. I was miserable. It's one of the most miserable bike rides I've had. I just wanted to get back to the car so bad. My hands, just to hit the brakes, it hurt. To stretch your finger out from the bar and grab that lever, it just hurt. And I wanted to take a picture of that thing when I first saw it, but my hands hurt so bad. I said no. But I kept watching this thing. And right when I made up my mind, I said, to heck with it. I'm going to turn around and go through the pain to get my phone out and take a picture, because this is just too strange. Right when that thought left my mind, a light came off the top of this black stump. It was a flash. It was very bright, small, but very quick. It was a very quick flash. And in that flash came these words. Go. If you turn around after this warning, I will be able to do with you as I will. And it was loud and clear and perfect English and inside my head, not my ears, inside my head. And as you can imagine, I kept going straight. I did not want to turn around and risk that. It was a warning. And it seems what I got from that was when these things come in contact with us, It's a weak, slow, dumb, toothpicks for bones. We break real easy. And to put that up against something like that would be just a Darwin Award, And I'm not no candidate for no Darwin Award. I'm not gonna be. But it kind of goes to the pattern which I've been hearing a lot of these stories where you get a warning from these things. Everybody gets a warning. If you don't know they're out there, you still get a warning. They don't care if you know or not. It's your warning. And if you ignore it, well, they can do with you as they will. And they are like humans. They vary as much as humans. There's humans that want to hurt somebody because they like seeing somebody hurt. And there's humans that want to help somebody because it makes them feel good and they're doing good. But you don't know which one you're going to get, and I'm not going to chance it. So that's about all. Besides my friends, I got a lot of stories from my friends that they tell me, but that's in the same area. And that's my Bigfoot story. And well, I don't know if it's a Bigfoot. It could be a hellhound or a Bigfoot because I never seen the face. I just heard the voice.
My Bigfoot sighting happened 11 years ago. I can't recall a specific date, but I was kayaking on the Suwanee in north central Florida and came around a bend, and about 75 yards distant, I saw on the north bank a figure that was about 5.5 feet high that I initially took to be a person. And as I got closer, I could see that it wasn't, that it was unclothed, covered in dark hair. Some of the hair on the top of the head and the shoulders was kind of sun-bleached reddish. It was pulling up cattails and eating the rootstocks. And it saw me, I saw it. I stopped paddling and just kind of drifted. And as I got closer, it just kind of looked at me, and it was chewing and just sort of like gave what could be described as an exasperated sigh, and dropped the rootstock, stood up, because it was in a crouching position, stood up to a height of about 5.5 feet, and I, for some reason, took it to be a juvenile. It just had a kind of youthful or immature look. And it turned and walked back into the tree line. And after it disappeared, I continued rowing. But my feeling at the time was not of fright. It just was kind of just mildly regretful that I had disturbed this being, in the midst of its having its lunch. And I carried on with my kayaking trip, and for a long time after I got back, I didn't say anything to anyone about it. But, I just kind of coincidentally began to hear more stories about the skunk ape. And, I had previously not heard anything about that, but I thought, yeah, well, that's pretty much what I saw. But I never did get close enough to notice any kind of strong odor that usually, you hear about in these kind of tales. The closest I got was maybe 25 yards from it, drifting with the current. And that's it. No vocalizations. It never exhibited any kind of aggression toward me. Just walked back into the tree line and disappeared.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let us know. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, loves and the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets. where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. The sound of a memory brings me back to the bluegrass playing on my dad's 8-track. His pickup man had been through it, getting through the day on Scruggs and Skags, bucking hay bales to those Tennessee jams. There's no other way that I'd do it. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something going backwards and double time, looking at the soul and the drumming, look Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Pace of the city life drives me wild. The only tune is the cars rushing by, with the bass on the stereos booming. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something going backwards and double time, looking at the soul and the drumming, look Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Something going backwards and double time, looking at the soul and the drummer, look Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm, ride chicken porch swing, mama's best sweet tea kind of sound.